Paris, November 8th, 1935. In a quiet suburb called Sois, just south of the capital, a child was born who would one day embody French style, danger, and beauty. His name was Alain Fabien Maurice Marcel Delon. His father, Fabien Delon, managed a small cinema. His mother, Edith Arnold, worked in a pharmacy. But when Alain was only 4, they divorced. From that moment on, he was passed from relatives to foster families, never in one place for long. He later said, "I learned very early that to survive, you depend on no one." That independence hardened him. At school, he was clever, charming, and impossible. Expelled again and again, he seemed allergic to authority. Teachers called him uncontrollable. He called himself bored. By 16, his education was over. He drifted through odd jobs: delivery boy, butcher's assistant, waiter. Always restless, always watching. In cafes and side streets, he absorbed the rhythm of post-war Paris. Jazz, cigarettes, dreams of a new world. But he wanted more than survival. In 1952, at 17, he enlisted in the French Navy, hoping the military might give his life direction. He was assigned to the Marine Fusiliers and shipped to French Indochina, what we now call Vietnam. The discipline didn't stick. He clashed with officers, ignored orders, and, according to naval archives, stole a military jeep for a wild ride through Saigon. He was arrested, court-martialed, and sent home in disgrace, spending time in the military prison of Fort La Malgue in Toulon. Later, he would laugh softly about it. "The Navy taught me 2 things: discipline and how to break it." In 1956, Delon returned to France. 20 years old, broke, and unsure what came next. Paris was booming again. Cinemas were full, youth culture was rising, and opportunity waited for those bold enough to take it. Delon took whatever work he could find: porter, waiter, doorman. But his looks drew attention wherever he went. Everyone remembered the same thing: his piercing blue eyes and a strange, quiet self-assurance. That same year, fate intervened. A friend invited him to the Cannes Film Festival, not as a guest, just to see the glamour. There, among movie stars and producers, one man stopped and stared. David O. Selznick, the powerful American producer of Gone with the Wind. Selznick reportedly said, "That boy could be the French James Dean." He offered Delon a Hollywood contract, but only if he moved to Los Angeles and learned English. Delon refused. "I didn't want to be a product," he said later. "If I was going to make mistakes, I wanted them to be my own." That choice, turning down Hollywood before he'd ever made a film, would define him. He stayed in France, determined to make it his own way. Through actress Brigitte Aubert, Delon met an agent who introduced him to director Yves Allégret. Allégret was struck. He had the face of trouble and the calm of someone who's seen too much. He cast Delon in Quand, femme, mêle, 1957. It was a small role, but Delon's presence filled the frame. He didn't yet know the craft of acting, but he instinctively understood the camera. He moved slowly, spoke little, and let silence do the work. Critics noticed a new face had arrived. Soon he appeared in Sois, belle, tais-toi, 1958. Be Beautiful and Shut Up, directed by Marc Allégret. The film was a light romantic comedy, but it gathered an impressive young cast: Jean-Paul Belmondo, Jean-Claude Brialy, and a radiant newcomer named Mylène Demongeau. Delon played a minor gangster, charming and sharp. It wasn't yet stardom, but it was exposure. That same year, he was hired for Christine, and it was Christine that changed everything. In Christine, 1958, Delon starred opposite Romy Schneider, already Europe's sweetheart thanks to her sissy films. The story was tragic, passionate, and tender, and so were they. Off-screen, Alain and Romy fell in love almost instantly. France had a new golden couple: she, the picture of discipline and grace, and he, the unpredictable rebel with movie star eyes. "Romy taught me tenderness," Delon later said. Before her, I didn't know how to love without fighting first.
Cœur, il est présent dans nos esprits. Et pour représenter l'amour, j'ai humblement choisi Romy Schneider.
Their love story fascinated the public. Newspapers followed them everywhere: Paris, Vienna, Rome. Romy introduced him to refinement. Delon brought her danger. They became symbols of youth, beauty, and the new European cinema. In 1959, Delon's career accelerated. He played a dashing soldier in Le Chemin des Écoliers by Michel Boiron, alongside veteran actors Jean Gabin and Bourvil. It was a small role, but sharing the screen with legends gave him credibility. Then came L'amour d'une femme and Faibles Femmes, again romantic comedies, again successful at the box office. He was becoming a familiar face, though still not taken seriously by the critics. But his final pre-breakthrough role hinted at the man he would soon become. The Nun's Story, 1959, directed by Fred Zinnemann. Delon had only a small part opposite Audrey Hepburn, yet his performance was restrained, calm, mature. He was learning to do more by doing less. Hollywood noticed again, but this time Delon stayed silent. He had learned that patience could be power. By late 1959, Alain Delon was 24. He had acted in half a dozen films, worked with established directors, and lived under the public eye as half of France's most famous couple. But he was still searching for a role that matched what people saw in him. A character as beautiful, dangerous, and mysterious as he was. That role was about to arrive. Director René Clément had just started casting for a new film based on a psychological thriller by Patricia Highsmith, The Talented Mr. Ripley. The project was called Plein Soleil. Clément needed an actor who could be both angel and devil, light and darkness. And when he met Alain Delon, he knew instantly. He had the face of an angel, Clément said later, and the eyes of a killer. Delon got the part. He didn't yet realize it would change his life forever. By the end of 1959, Alain Delon had already lived several lives. The restless boy from Sois, the rebellious sailor in Indochina, the struggling waiter in Paris, and now, a rising actor finding his place on the big screen. He had known loneliness, scandal, and rejection, and somehow they had all shaped that mysterious calm the camera loved so much. In the next episode, we'll follow the young actor as he steps into the Mediterranean sun and into history. This is where Alain Delon becomes more than a name. This is where he becomes a legend.